Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the LaunchPad Associate Workshop Series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. LaunchPad Associate Workshops is a series of presentations completed by and presented by recent PGA members that have either gone through the 2.0 or the 3.0 program that are designed to give associates in the level 1 program of the PGM program a walkthrough on each level of the work experience kit as a resource guide and also as a networking agent as well. We're very grateful for Bill Rhiley of Hillcrest Golf Club in Sun City West, Arizona. He's going to be presenting this afternoon on career enhancement. Bill was actually on the March 7th LaunchPad presenting on teaching and coaching. And so he's been kind enough to take us through another element of the PGM level 1 work experience kit. Bill, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Yeah, no problem, John.
She's all yours. Take it away as we've been doing over the 7 weeks of this ongoing weekly webcast, which will be concluding next Monday on April 11th with tournament operations and Anthony Valverde. Bill's going to give a presentation and show some slides and talk a little bit about the career enhancement module of the level 1 PGM program, and then we'll open it up to questions and some Q&A at about the 30-minute mark. Thanks again, Bill. She's all yours.
All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the beginning of the journey. It's a long journey, but definitely worth it in the end. I would like to introduce myself. I'm the primary instructor for John Jacobs Golf Schools at Hillcrest in Sun City West. You've probably watched or participated in the teaching and coaching, so I'm probably not new. I won't spend too much time talking about my background. We're got some objectives, what we learned. We'll finish off with some questions. We'll go through it. So I'm a second career. I did 20 years in the U.S. Navy. I kind of had an idea the last few years when I was going to retire that getting into the golf business is what I wanted to do, but I really wasn't sure what direction that I wanted to take. I wound up going through the PGA program at University of Nebraska, graduated in May last year, got elected in June. And like I say, I'm currently the primary instructor at Hillcrest in Sun City West, Arizona for John Jacobs Golf Schools. Done previous internships with John Jacobs and did a teaching internship at Chicago Highlands, the west suburbs of Chicago. Worked at Treetops in northern Michigan for an extended internship. I did some teaching golf schools and worked in the golf shop while I was there. We're going to look over some of the things for your level 1 seminars, identify some parts that you need to work on in your portfolio, some general advice that I have in relationship to how you view this module. And then we got have some time for some questions. Hopefully some people have some questions at the end. The thing is you can look at this module as being, it's a fairly straightforward module. It's not very complicated. You know, you do an interview, you do your goals and career assessment and submit a resume. But I would like you to try to actually use the benefit, because using this module the way it is properly set up to be done, rather than just trying to check a box to get completed, use it to actually open your eyes to how you want to develop yourself as a golf professional going forward. It can be a very enlightening module if you put in the time and effort to actually use it the way that it's designed. Like this says here is just, you know, it's not just getting the next job. It's building yourself both in your skill sets, your network, and trying to get to your ultimate end goal of what type of golf professional you want to be. Even if you specialize in, say, teaching and coaching, when you get into level 2 and try to specify a kind of a career path, say if you wanted to teach, that's what I wanted to do. But if you wanted to teach, you want to make sure that you build yourself as a very well-rounded golf professional in all of the things that you do and work on, because you never know what that next opportunity is going to be, and you want to be prepared for that opportunity if it presents itself. You know, life takes different turns, different plans, and you might change what direction you want to go in this business. There's a lot of different things that you can do as a PGA member, and you don't want to just ignore some of the things in, say, food and beverage or executive management, or, you know, golf shop operations or tournament operations, because you just set yourself that you want to do nothing but teaching and coaching. So you want to try to build yourself as a well-rounded golf professional. Your career enhancement, you're going to want to set goals. Kind of what I was saying is build a diversified skill set to where you're capable of doing all sorts of different tasks. Because if you go the route of executive management, you kind of still need to know how to handle merchandise and inventory. Or, you know, if you're carrying that PGA seal as a member of the PGA of America, I would really hope that everybody puts in at least a little bit of time being able to give a quality golf lesson, because that's what those are the kinds of things that are expected from a member of the PGA of America. So try to use this to help plan your career with, even though it's just a level 1 module. Set goals, develop your assessment, be honest with what you can do and what you want to do. Use SWOT analysis. Those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, those are used in a bunch of different ways throughout the PGA and throughout life, business. You know, it's not just a PGA thing, but think of those when you're evaluating your career enhancement. So golf business is booming. There's a lot of different directions that you can go, but there's a lot of businesses, places, and golf companies that they will look at your skill sets and they will hire a good person that has good skill sets, even if they don't have experience in a particular job that they're hiring for. They will just lean toward good skill sets in general, good oral, written communications, work ethic, ability to use customer relations, media. Somebody that has those tools, those skill sets, they will, a lot of times they will hire that person and then find a job for them. They don't necessarily always have a job and then try to find a candidate that fits those criteria. They just hire good people and then find a place for them to work. So obviously, especially with the unfortunateness of COVID and stuff like that, the golf business has just been through the roof. Most everybody, I'm sure, is seeing that in their different locations. So that is creating a lot of opportunities. And the golf business especially has some PGA members that are getting closer toward retirement age as the opportunities for different positions are expanding. So there is growing to be continuing to be a vacuum of places that are looking for good talent in all different aspects. So the thing is we want to make sure that we're prepared for those opportunities, even though you don't know what those opportunities are now. So basically in an interview, you're selling yourself. Okay. If you don't necessarily have to be a hardcore salesman, but you want to make sure that you've got all of your skill sets covered, know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, know where you need to work, continue to grow, and get ready to build upon that as you go looking for your next career path, or sometimes your career path might change. Okay, we have 3 parts to the portfolio that you put in for your level 1 work experience. Interviewing a supervising professional, refine your personal development summary and your goal plan, and then update and submit a resume. When we're looking at interviewing a supervising professional, one of the important things is I would recommend taking your portfolio and printing it out, taking that with you and having that as your questionnaire, because sometimes it can be a little difficult to plan and schedule a meeting with somebody to be able to sit down and interview them for the portfolio. And the last thing you want to do is think you've got everything, get through all of your questions, get done with the interview, thank them, head on out, and then go to get in front of your computer or wherever you're working on it and see about filling out and getting all the information in all the boxes and getting everything filled out. And then you come up to one that you don't have something to put in the box because you forgot to answer a question. But if you print out your portfolio, take it with you and use it as a checklist as you're taking your notes during the interview, that'll definitely help make sure you don't miss anything. Make sure that you try to reach out. You might have a good relationship with your head professional at the course that you work at, but don't be afraid to reach out to other facilities. You can get kind of a fresh view on things if you're actually interviewing somebody that you don't already know. Can wind up being a little bit better experience than somebody that you're used to seeing on a day-to-day basis. I would recommend, if you can, it's later on in this PowerPoint slide, but I would recommend bringing your resume. Go ahead and print out your latest copy that you've got of building your resume. Take it with you. Let them look at it. Most of the time, they'll be more than happy to at least give you a pointer or some advice, or take a look at it and see if it looks like you're going in the right direction with your resume. Because those people that are in those supervisory positions are used to looking at resumes. They know how they look at, if they get a stack of 50 resumes, what kinds of things help resumes stand out. Have them take a look at your resume and be able to give you some pointers and advice. The next section is refining your personal development summary and goal plan. And this is the one of the parts that I would recommend actually taking some legitimate time, and instead of just trying to fill in the boxes to get the check mark to get done with the activity, to actually use this a little bit to try to focus yourself on the direction that you want to go in the golf business. So if you take a close look at yourself, look at some goals, look at some things that you would like to do. The actual portfolio is pretty straightforward and self-explanatory, but try to make sure that you really use it for your own personal benefit while you're filling it out, because it can help you set a good direction. Uh, Start with long-term, but dial it down to try to be short-term. You're gonna, when you're filling it out for what they're looking for from the PGA, you're gonna need to be specific. You don't want to say a broad statement like this. Uses the example. Don't say you want to be a better teacher. You know, you want a more specific goal. You want to be able to have that goal, have it contain specific items, specific goals, specific timelines. You want to really try to narrow it down to something that's measurable, attainable, achievable. You know, you're also not trying to look too specific long term. Try to make them a little more short term and realistic. Because if you know, if you're a 12-year-old first starting to compete in your first junior event, and you try to write a goal that I want to win the Masters by the time I'm 19, you know, that's not a very realistic goal, not a very achievable goal, and too broad and long term of a goal. So try to make sure you set good goals. Utilize your resources. There's a lot in the PGA employment resources. You've got career consultants, you've got manuals, you got toolkits, you've got a bunch on the internet to be able to use some of those tools from the PGA of America to try to help your long-term employment resources. Updating your resume. There's plenty of examples. There's plenty of places you can get on the internet. The biggest ones for me when it comes to resumes are start with building a master resume. So what I mean by a master resume is have a file that you keep that is everything possible that you can add to your resume. And who knows, 10 years, 20 years down the line, that resume might be 10, 15, 20 pages long. Now, you're never going to want to send your entire master resume when you're submitting for a position. But what you do is you take that master resume and you want to try to narrow that down to 1 or 2 pages and have all the really good stuff at the top, because you only have, when you know an employer gets 50 or 100 resumes land on their desk for a position that they post, they're more than likely not reading every word of every resume that's there. There's going to be at least an initial sifting process as they go through and they look at each resume for 20, 30 seconds and kind of already have a feeling that this goes in the we're not going to worry about this one pile. And then you want to try to make that cut into that, you know, instead of that 100 resumes, you want to try to make that cut into that 10 or 20 resumes that they actually give good attention to. You got to try to make it through that first cut, and you're first going through the first cut, you only might have the 20, 30 seconds that they're looking at it. So you want to really try to make the resume not too long, and you want to make it specific toward the job that you're looking for. That's why I say the master resume. So you take that master resume and you pick and choose the pieces that apply toward the position. If you're applying for a position that has to do with, they're looking for somebody to run the junior program and be a player development coordinator, you don't want to send them a resume that has every golf related job that you worked washing clubs and doing carts when you were 16 years old. You want to try to take those work experiences, those skill sets that you have and your experience that you have in relationship to junior programs and player development. And so you take those pieces off the master resume and you put those into the resume that you submit. So you want to kind of direct your resume toward the position that you're applying for. And then that's how you take from your full resume that's got everything into one that's directed to the position that you're looking for, and try to keep that short and simple, because if you've got all the experience, that's going to show through. Don't exaggerate, only put in what you've actually done. That goes without saying. And try to update that on a regular basis. You know, you might not change jobs, you might be in the same position, but you know, when you get done, say you're working tournaments and over the course of a year, you help coordinate and run 12 tournaments at your club. Well, go to your resume and, you know, get those numbers in there. Help, you know, maybe your resume last year, your master resume said that you had helped run 3 tournaments. Well, now you took a little more active role in tournament coordination. And so you go into that resume and you'd be like, I helped run 15 tournaments, add those 12 to the 3 that you had before, helped run 15 tournaments. So that's how you keep building your master resume and keep updating that. And then who knows, you wind up using that experience toward director of tournament operations position that opens up at a different club that you feel like that's the direction that you want to go. So just a little case example is a professional was passionate about the golf business, but did not know which direction to specialize. Had tons of prior experience in another industry, but never worked in the golf industry. Understood his skills, but didn't know how they might transfer. Decides he needs to get in at the ground floor and learn the total business. So become a well-rounded in all types of facilities and departments, and then determine likes and dislikes and skills and positives and deficiencies, and build into a well-rounded golf professional. Professional worked at all the major types of facilities, a small town private, working mostly in the golf shop, then a multi-course large resort, high-end private club, multi-course and single course facilities. Updated his skill set at different areas, worked in merchandising, worked in teaching, worked in tournament operations, took on more responsible roles. Ultimately, I had been deciding to specialize in teaching. During his journey, he began selecting internships that highlighted where he would want to ultimately land in a full-time teaching only position. So that, if it didn't start becoming obvious, is basically the path that I took. I knew I loved playing the game of golf, but I didn't necessarily know what I want to do in the golf industry. So I just kind of built my way into finding out what I like to do. I found out I really enjoyed teaching once I started doing a little bit of it and wanted to do more. So then I started focusing my directions on what I wanted to do as I went through my internships and job experiences, to where now I wound up coming straight out of graduation into a full-time teaching only position. So I don't work in the golf shop. I don't handle merchandise. All I do is teach golf schools and private lessons. So that being said, even when I started getting that direction, I made sure that everywhere that I was at, I worked to make sure I was well-rounded. So I have done work in merchandising. I've done work in tournament operations, done work in golf shop. And by doing that, I consider myself a well-rounded golf professional. And I have had some opportunities where prior employers have called and asked if I wanted to accept a full-time head professional position. And at this point, I have not done that and don't have an interest in taking on that role. But I understand that if I ever did want to change the direction that I wanted to go, I would not be afraid to take that position as a head professional, because I made sure that I stayed well-rounded in every aspect of what I was doing. So that is one thing you're going to wind up having a specialized course and a career path, but always try to make sure you keep your strengths in all areas, because you never know what opportunity might come up, and a position that you didn't think would ever be a possibility, all of a sudden somebody gives you a phone call, and you want to be prepared to accept that position if it's something that you want to shift gears in. So again, this module is pretty straightforward. It's probably the easiest one out of all of them in level 1. It's just a bunch of boxes you got to fill in. But again, don't dismiss its importance, because while it might be the easiest one to get the check in the box and complete it and finish it, it is also the one that can have one of the biggest impacts for you long-term in your career. So try to spend some time and approach it that way, that it's actually going to be long-term important toward how you enhance and develop your career over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years of your life, and not just plug through it, get it over with, and check the box. So use it to be able to learn where these resources are at that are at your disposal, the career enhancement tools from the PGA, your career consultants. Develop a plan. Make sure that you don't procrastinate this one, because it's easy, can wind up creeping up on you. And enjoy the journey, because sometimes the journey is more fun than the destination. Anybody have any questions?
Bill, well done. Well done. Can you talk a little bit about some of the practices that you recommend in terms of keeping a master resume, to make sure that you're not sending the resume that was, a data that was for a specific job to another job, just because you didn't catch it from one master to the next?
Well, the one thing that I tend to try to do with that master resume is try to keep it very general. So what I would do is take your master resume. You have a completely new resume that you're going to submit for this job application that you're going to send in. So then you start copying and pasting from your master resume onto the one that you're going to submit for this position. But since you kept it general, you have in your master resume, then that keeps things general. If you forget to pinpoint something, one thing that you might do as far as like opening statements and some of those generalisticness, it's really good when you have an opening statement in your resume that actually has the facility that you're applying to, or in relationship to the specific job you're applying for in that opening statement. That's something that really catches the employer's eye. So the employer's eye is really going to get caught when your opening statement talking about, your passion for the golf business and your general opening statement. But if you have the position that you're applying for and at the facility you're applying for in there, then that really catches their eye in that first 20 to 30 seconds to get your resume into that good pile. So what I would do is write out that opening statement in your general resume, but actually just use underlines. Okay, just use underlines where you would have the facility's name, or underlines where you would have the job position that you're applying for. Then when you copy and paste that into the new resume, you'll see those underlines and be like, okay, I need to read through this carefully and make sure that I substitute these underlines for the facility and the position that I'm applying for this resume. And try to have every resume that you send, rather than having just a generic resume that you send to 10 different places, try to specify each resume toward each position that you might, even if you're sending out 10 different ones to 10 different resumes to 10 different jobs, try to have each resume that you send out, at least try to have it catered toward that specific job that you're applying for. Because those are the details that really get you out of that 80% pile that doesn't get looked at after the first 20 seconds. You want to get into that. You want to get into that 20% pile that they actually go through and read your whole resume and spend a little time on it, and be one of those people that gets called for an interview.
And it's so important to, all of us are guilty of, we want to put in all of our experiences, and we want to articulate, and we want to be in depth. But so many of the employers out there, especially when you're not applying directly to another PGA professional or a standalone general manager, when you're applying to a committee of members that, do other things in their professions, or they're retired, so often, they don't, that's a voluntary position that they put in at that club, where they don't read more than the first 20% of the resume. If you don't have your most important information in the top portion of that front page, they're not going to go any further. And the cover letter, exactly the same way. If you don't have two very compelling, very catching sentences in the very beginning of that cover letter, a lot of these search committees, are not going to go any deeper, especially when, they have a large amount of applicants for the position. And with the resume, a lot of us we're guilty of wanting to put in all of our experiences because they're relevant to us, and we want to feel like we want to provide that detail. But that opportunity comes when we actually physically meet the hiring parties face to face. You really got to keep the descriptions general and impactful and relevant. Because if they're not relevant to the problems that particular club or department has based on their history, I mean, you have to do your research, you have to do your homework, because, when you interview for a position, that's the core of selling. You're selling yourself to that employer. And when you're selling, it's like you look at what is the definition of salesmanship? It's solving someone's need, desire, problem, or want. And these clubs, let's take a head golf professional position at a middle to high end equity country club, where you have a board of directors that potentially is using a headhunting executive search firm, or they're doing it themselves with their own assembled search committee. They have a problem. They don't have a head pro, or they don't have a general manager. They have an actual problem, and they're looking to solve their problem. They're looking for someone to come in and solve their problem. So if you don't convince them in, 2 or 3 sentences or less in that cover letter, and 2 or 3 bullets on the very top of the beginning of that resume, if you don't convince them that you're going to solve their problem and be the right long-term fit for them, because the last thing I want to do is hire somebody that doesn't work out and they're back doing this same search 6 months later. You need to really sell yourself on, hey, I'm going to solve your problem. I'm going to be your long-term head pro. And then if of course, this is where the research on the club is so vital and so important. Maybe the predecessor was a long-term head pro that had let the merchandise go over the decades, or was let go for cause, or there was a problem where they were poor at tournament operations, or they had leadership issues, whatever the situation was, or it was someone that they revered as a god and finally moved on to a bigger club, and the membership thought that they were never going to leave there. These are all opportunities for you to come in and say, hey, I know you had, a head pro that you loved for 20 years and you thought he was never going to leave. And now he's left and you guys have this huge void. Who's going to be the next so-and-so? Well, you've got 2-3 bullets on that resume, and the first 20 seconds of that interview where you've got to convince them that you're going to be that next Mr. Somebody that's going to be there for 20 years and solve their problems so they don't have to do this again. And they've got another head pro that they could trust for a long time. But it's really about solving that club's need, problem, or want, so that they don't have to go through this again and hire another applicant. But in terms of putting together that resume, and I've been guilty of it myself, where you want to make sure you've got all the experiences on there, and you want to make sure that you could speak to this department, you could speak to this aspect, and now you've got 4 pages worth of resume. You could put obscenities on that 4th page. Most of the time, they're never even going to get to that. They're going to look at the first half of that first page, and if you haven't solved their problem in that first half of the first page, then you're going to be, like Bill said, in that 80% pile. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But thanks, Bill.
Like I say, that's, you're in a position where you've done more of that than I have. So like I say, your insight on how that works is extremely valuable to everybody.
Yeah, because if you're coming to a place that, let's say they've been through 4 head pros in 3 years. Well, they've got a problem keeping a department head, in golf operations. You need to come in and be like, no, I'm looking for a place to be the next 20 years. And why hasn't it worked out? You have to do the research. Why hasn't it worked out with the 4 other head pros in the last 3 years? Was it tournament operations? Was it leadership? Was it, fiscal responsibility and financial performance? Was it, was he teaching too much? You have to do the research and find out what the reservations were, because you need to come in and solve that problem and create the impression that you're going to solve that problem, that the concerns they had with the 3 people that came before you, they're not going to have with you. And, it speaks to a short and concise resume, a cover letter that pops and flies off the page and is electric within the first 2-3 sentences of the cover letter. I mean, also, you don't want your cover letter to be that long, because again, they're looking for, when they've got a stack of applicants in this daunting task of finding a general manager or finding a head professional, or even a head professional looking for an assistant professional, they've got a daunting task and they've got all these applicants and they're looking for a reason to discard that resume. They're not looking at every resume, and it's to a fault. One should be looking at every applicant, trying to find the benefits and the experiences and looking for the answer in each applicant, but that's not how people are. They're looking for a reason to stop reading that resume. They're looking for a reason to throw that one in the trash, because people want to get through with what they have to do in front of them, most people. So the cover letter and the resume needs to be very concise, very relevant, and very problem solving, because this club, this golf course, they got a problem. They don't have someone like you. So how are you going to tell them in 30 seconds or less that you're the guy? I mean, that's where the salesmanship comes in. So
and on that end, here's the other thing that seems obvious, but one of the things that will get you in that 80% pile the fastest is something as simple as poor grammar, poor spelling, spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes right there at the beginning on that cover letter or the first part of that resume. That's a real quick way to get yourself into that 80% pile in a hurry.
Sure.
If you don't have enough attention to detail to have good grammar, good spelling, punctuation, all of that 8th grade English stuff, if you don't, that's going to get you out into that. If you don't have the attention to detail to handle that, they definitely don't want you as their head pro.
That's true.
So,
And you can't, it goes way beyond trusting spell check. You need to get that resume into like 3, 4, 5 different sets of eyes, because you yourself, you might fancy yourself as a decent writer and you have decent grammar, but things become camouflage after you, especially in terms of having a master resume. You look over it, and it becomes blind. You're blind to a lot of things in that resume, and the computer is not going to pick up a lot of things in our language that are not proper grammar, but the computer's not going to pick it up. You can only get that by circulating that resume around people that know what they're doing, mentors, coworkers, people you trust. Get that resume in front of several different sets of eyes, because you, like Bill said, you got a grammar mistake in there or a comma that's missing. They're going to disregard that. Again, they're looking for a reason to stop reading your resume. And when you have a run-on sentence, or you've got misspellings, or you don't have the right spacing, you're giving them a reason to move on to the next resume. Another thing is too, when we go back to being relevant and solving their problem, you want references that lend themselves to you being the person that'll solve that club's problem. So if you've got, we've all have, a couple dozen references, you want to be able to use the right reference for the right job. If you're applying for a director of instruction position, then your references should all be teaching people and people that you've worked with that can speak to your ability as a teacher and your ability to manage a golf school. You want those guys on your resume. And if you're looking for a general manager position, you better have some people that could speak to your ability to manage a food and beverage concession. Because if you're applying for a general manager position, you've got the letters PGA after your name, the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, he doesn't know anything about food and beverage. And if you go to your references and it's a bunch of other PGA guys, well, it just gives them that feeling where this person, we've got a problem in food and beverage at our club, and this person is not going to be able to solve it. So you want to make sure your references are relevant to the position you're applying for as well.
Absolutely.
All right, I got 15 minutes till 5 on the West Coast. I don't see any other hands up. Bill, any closing comments?
No, not really. I mean, like I say, this biggest thing is use this as a good tool. I've said it quite a few times when I was going through the presentation, but this is one of those things that is very beneficial and relative for your progression in long-term career enhancement. I mean, that's exactly it. It doesn't say PGA level 1 associate enhancement. It says career enhancement. These are things that will help get you on the right path and guide you for your entire career for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And whether you wind up staying in the golf business or not, these things are extremely relative, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what profession you're doing. These are not PGA specific things. These are things that are throughout all aspects of all business and community and everything else. So this is quite possibly can be one of the most useful sections long-term for your career. You might be understanding some of these things when you're going through this now, that 20 years from now, you're a general manager at a facility and you're looking to hire a head pro. These are long-term things as far as when you're looking at resumes and looking at things that involve your career path. So
Most
while
certainly.
it's fairly straightforward and simple in filling out boxes and submitting a resume, it is try your best to look at this a little bit more long-term as a useful long-term tool, and do it the way you would do for your own personal career. You'll wind up submitting a better product in your portfolio to start with, but aside from that, it's a really good thing to help build yourself and get yourself on the right path long-term in your career.
Indeed. And also, ladies and gentlemen, a good portion of the viewers of this LaunchPad and all the LaunchPads will be viewing this through YouTube, through the SCPGA education dropdown on the LaunchPad landing page. I will include Bill's contact information on the email that goes out. Feel free to reach out to him with any questions that you have going forward. And also likewise myself, I always send out an email with Bill's recording of today's presentation that includes his PowerPoint, and also my contact information is on that. Questions about your resume you want, or just another set of eyes, I'm always here. You want me to take a look at your resume, I would be more than happy to go through it. And I'll be happy to provide some feedback and be a resource. That's the whole idea behind the LaunchPad Associate Workshops, is to tie people together that are like-minded and move in the same direction with our vocational love of this industry and what we're doing. Bill, on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, thank you very, very much for doing this not once but twice during this spring LaunchPad campaign. Next week will be the conclusion of the 8-week webcast with Anthony Valverde presenting on tournament operations. And then we'll go on hiatus probably until the end of the summer, where we'll run through the 8 levels, the 8 books in a level 1 PGM program, again with different presenters and different perspectives and different experiences. And thank you, everybody. Thanks for supporting it, and good luck, and stay in touch. Take care, Bill. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, take care. Thank you very much for coming over.